So this is phase one. This is a Highway 101 here. You'll come off the roundabout here onto Sweetgrass Road. This is our gas bar, and that's the pumps. This will hopefully be a potential restaurant and then parking. Future parts of Glooscap Landing include a farmer's market type building, a restaurant, another additional restaurant, more of a little high-end restaurant, a culture and event center to showcase Mi'kmaq culture in the Annapolis Valley. I don't know about here, but in the valley, they tend to forget about us. It's all about the Acadians and the planters. So we want to make sure that people know the Mi'kmaq history there. We also want to have classrooms where we can teach about the Mi'kmaq culture, language, art, and a small art gallery. And an event space which we can rent out, because ultimately economic development is about making money for the community. So I'm just going to end off with just telling you how we protect the community, because it's a lot of money that goes into this. So what we've done is we've established Glooscap Landing as a limited partnership, and this is in this brochure if you want to see it. Basically, Glooscap Landing takes all the liability, but Glooscap First Nation takes all the money. So it's a beautiful thing, because if Glooscap Landing should happen to fail, which it won't, but if it should happen to fail, the band is completely protected. They would have to pay $10 on a multi-million-dollar project, essentially, if we don't succeed. So we've established it this way to protect the community, and we're going to establish every business this way to make sure that the community and their on-reserve profits are not impacted if our businesses should not do well. But I assure you, they will do well.
I guess, like as Amanda was talking in regards to the who's responsible for what. Well, one of the things that I was concerned about is people got to realize that being chief and council, regardless, we're responsible for whatever happens in the community. We're also responsible for whatever's happening with the dollars that we're spending. So that's why it was important that when we looked at this development corporation, that I didn't want the development corporation to keep moving forward, and at some point I also didn't want the corporation to run the community, because that's sometimes what happens is eventually you get lots of dollars, lots of money coming in, you got lots of expertise or whatever, and it seems to kind of take over. Well, that's what I was worried about, but also the liability issue in regards to it. I wanted to ensure, if I'm going to have you run my businesses, I want to make sure you're running it, the most efficient way. But also, if you screw up and you do some wheeling and dealing, and they try to come after you or come back to the community and make the community responsible, we also needed to watch that. So anything we do, I mean, it does cost us a lot for legal fees or whatever, but we have to ensure that this Glooscap Ventures is basically doing a business, operating, but they're also responsible and liable for whatever decisions they make. But also, how are we going to be part of that? And that's why it was important that, say, the chief be the chairman of both, and also ensure that we had, a council that was responsible in regards to economic development, was part of their portfolio, so they would be there and they understand it. So it can get pretty tricky. And then the other issue in which you might run into has to deal with, wait a minute now, as a community, you guys are putting so many dollars out for economic development. In the meantime, we've got housing to do, we've got roads to do, we've got whatever. So you're going to run into that as well, as say you're putting too much in economic development, you're not doing enough here. So there's that whole big balance, that you have to be careful of. And like Amanda said, we've got that individual that lives right across from our development, that is fighting us all the way through the municipality only because he doesn't want Native people to develop. I know Amanda didn't mention it, but just down the road, just a little ways, you see how that road goes on the right down through there? We had an opportunity to buy another 50 acres. So we went and put an offer in once it came up, and then they come back and said, no, we don't want to sell it now, only because they knew who we were. Right? So it's still out there. They don't want the First Nation people to develop. Right? But that's also why it's important that we are trying to create these other partnerships with, the surrounding people there. For example, we're looking at bringing in high-speed internet, and we have to bring in three-phase wire or electrical up to our site. You know, so we have to talk to, I don't know, 30, 40 households, you know, about that. So again, so we have to be careful when we're, you know, how things work. We got to work in partnership. We're there for you. The benefit is for the whole surrounding community. It's not just for Glooscap, right? And like Joanna said, and like Councillor Larry was talking about, what is the percentage of First Nations versus non-First Nations that's actually employed at the various developments. And as she said, it's 95% non-native, you know. But one of the other things in which I was talking to Chief PJ, one of the other things, and I've talked to Amanda about, I'd like to have a professional development. I'm not sure what it is or what we're going to call it, but I want, rather than just all retail, I want to have a professional center where we have lawyers, where we have engineers, where we have, you know, whatever it might be, professional First Nation people working there, so that we can draw some of our people back. I mean, if we take a look at all our First Nation communities, how much we're spending on engineering to everywhere. Look how much we're spending on audits, right? Look how much we're spending on archaeology and stuff. Well, how come we can't be doing that ourselves? And I said, I want part of this set aside for professional building that brings our professional people back. We pay them good dollars. We've got a place to stay. We got 423 acres, you know, where we reside right now, and that was one of the other things. I didn't want to take away from that residential land as of yet to do commercial development. I still wanted to have it residential. We're only 50 minutes from the city. That's not very far for whether it's commuting for work or whatever it is. So that was important that I want to see is how are we going to bring our professional people back, you know, to our First Nation communities. It doesn't matter to me where you're from, right? But it's the big thing is creating that opportunity. So that's just another thing in which hopefully down the road that we can build on.
I just want to say our latest victory was announced 2 days ago by the province. I don't know if you know about the rural high-speed internet money that was available. Glooscap Ventures put in an application and we were successful. So we're one of the 13 projects in Nova Scotia. So we are bringing fiber op to not only Glooscap First Nation community, but from Bishopville Road, which the community is located on, all the way up to the landing, which also gives high-speed internet to about 40 houses who are really in love with us right now. So while the gentleman across the road may not appreciate us, the lady who owns Invisible Fence dog and cat company, you know, the Invisible Fences, she lives right here in one of these little houses you can see on the screen. And she's our biggest fan right now because she has to go into town with her laptop to do her work. Now she'll be able to do her work at home. So we're trying to build relationships and friendships with the local community, and that's one way we were able to do it. We were able to bring town sewer to a few homes, 6 homes, because of our line, and now we're able to bring high-speed fiber op to about 40 houses along the route. So those are really small victories, it seems, but it's creating a really good goodwill with our neighbors. So we're quite happy about that.
Amanda, did you mention how much we put into the development so far?
The development so far is about $6 million. That's the water line, which we had to bring from way up here, all the way across the highway and down to the landing. And then we had to bring sewer from way over here, underneath the overpass and into the landing. It also includes the road. This is what we call pad number 1, where the gas bar is going to be. There are 3 pads along here that we've also developed that have sewer and water. They'll have internet, electricity, and those will be ready if people want to lease the land or if we want to build the professional center that we've said. So total, it's $6 million, and Glooscap First Nations contribution, because we've accessed so much funding, has been about $600,000. So it's about 12% of the entire project is funded by us. The rest is funded through ACOA, INAC, the province. So we've really leveraged a lot of funding. We do have a small loan as well. So by the end of it, it'll be almost $10 million once the building is built, because we kind of are going all out with the building. This is what it's going to look like. So you'll see the Glooscap Landing convenience store. This here will be a coffee outlet, an unnamed coffee outlet. And then we're going to have an atrium where you can sit and enjoy. There'll be a fireplace in there, and we recently received news that we're getting funding to hire one of our community members who's a brilliant artist, and she's going to paint Mi'kmaq murals on the walls of the inside. And this is what it'll look like on the inside. That's the atrium. So we're making it not a truck stop, so to speak. We're trying to make it a destination where people come, they stay, they spend their money, and while they're there, they're forced to learn about Mi'kmaq language culture.
Just a quick question. I want to know why you went with fee simple and not addition to reserves, because you're running into that problem with municipality going to the Supreme Court, and the other issue is on the taxation issue. With fee simple, are you still tax exempt working in that area there?
So we opted for fee simple because we had to purchase the land, and as you may know, the ATR process can take a really long time. And the chief and council and the board of directors said, we're not willing to wait, let's just develop. We'll look at ATRing it in the future. It's also better to be fee simple because we can leverage it for loans from commercial lenders. So if it was reserve land, we wouldn't have been able to secure loans to finish the project. So it has benefited us. There is talk of making an ATR in the future, but if you were to stop and get gas here when our eventual building goes up, it will not be tax-free. However, 5 kilometers down the road is a reserve where you can get tax-free gas.
So you're not taxed. It's not taxable. And in regards to additions to reserves, it all depends on INAC in moving that forward. We bought a parcel of land that was fee simple, fast-tracked, and turned to addition to reserves within a year. So any information like that from INAC is not holding water with me, anyways, because it depends on the INAC itself. They can either fast-track it or they can slow it up. But if I was to look at Buckingham, because we have fee simple land here, we'd be looking at the additions to reserve and fast-tracking that additions to reserve because it's entirely possible to fast-track that process.
Yeah, the intent is to ATR it, just not quite yet. And like I said, we have been able, because we do own it and it is fee simple, we have been able to leverage it to secure funding and financing to complete the project. If it was reserve land, we wouldn't be able to access a loan.
Through the presentation, it's just really good how quick you've been able to sort of develop your vision and realize your vision through the work of, the corporation and the band and many pieces coming together. Somewhat similar to the question you had to Joanne earlier, as we undertake our development, what are some of the things that you'd like, for us to sort of be a bit mindful of as we sort of venture forward?
I guess I think one of the big things, of course, is ensure that you get the buy-in from the community. And we know that if you don't have the buy-in from the community, things aren't going to move forward, or if not, it's not going to move forward very fast. So that's important. I guess the other thing to ensure is that you really do your homework in regards to the feasibility, the analysis. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Because as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. Chief and council, you're going to be the ones to blame, whether it's the development corp that's going to be doing it on your behalf or not. You guys are still going to be the ones that's going to be blamed for it. So I would ensure that you do your homework on those. I know that if you're getting funds from INAC. I mean, that's one of the other things that they also look at too under development corporations. If they feel it isn't going to work, there's still that they're still looking at the First Nation as well. So there's kind of another little protection there in which, I learned not after the fact, but I was wondering, how that was all going to work. But they're also watching out for the community as well. So they'll ensure you do your homework before you get there. The other thing is, I know it's costly, but you have to, take a look at, hiring good, qualified people, And I know that sometimes we hire people, that has designations or has, all these nice letters, beside their name. But I often say that, if they screw up, we're coming after your designation or whatever it is, because that's what we're hiring you for. And the other thing is, be careful because you want to hire these people, but you want workers. You don't want people that says, I have this designation and I'm going to have somebody else do the work. No, that's not what you want. You want somebody that's going to work with you, and somebody that understands the community. Because if you bring somebody in that's not going to fit in the community, or is even going to talk at a higher level of the community, I don't think it's going to work. Yeah, so you need to be careful on who you guys hire. The other thing was, I guess we talk about, the transparency part. What we did too is to try to keep council out of when we hire people. We would, as far as screening and as far as interview boards, we would have an interview board that would be made up of various economic development officers or whatever it is, or CEOs or whatever, and sometimes the chief might be on there, but they would do the interviews. They would help identify the most qualified individual for the position. Recommendations usually come to chief and council, and that's kind of how it works. That way there, they don't say, well, you've hired this individual because that's a friend of yours or whatever it is. So I think try to look at that. And the other thing is, you don't think there's, you think that things are going well, and that's what we thought too. But look what happened to an individual that just kind of set us back, 14 months almost.
18 months.
18?
Yes, I'm keeping track.
Okay, 18 months, $70,000 later, and we still haven't moved. I'm surprised that our community isn't after us. Well, I know they are, but anyway, we just went through election just last month or whatever, and we take office on April Fool's Day, this Saturday, for another 5 years. But anyway, we're hoping that we continue to move forward. The other thing is, as I mentioned, we do have a strategic plan. We also have an economic development plan. The biggest thing is, try to stick with what you said you were going to do. These plans, they can be revamped a little bit, but I would say if we're going to do something, stick to it. And if it doesn't stick, if you don't stick to it and you start to go on the wayside, make sure if you're going down that route, everybody is aware and why you're going that route. And try to keep the community updated. We have a Facebook site. We do a newsletter quarterly, I think, three newsletters.
We have 2 newsletters that go out. I don't have a copy with me, but they're very colorful, and they combine the community and economic development. So we like to highlight community members who are doing exceptional work in sports, arts, culture, whatever they're doing. And then we give full updates on what's happening at Glooscap Ventures and Glooscap Landing as well.
And I think that's about it. I guess the other thing is, to be open, be available for, if there's other organizations want to talk to you. And it's amazing, how many people out there want to help you and want to help you move forward. But there's also some out there that want to take advantage of you, so you also have to be careful of that as well. And, there's lots of other communities that's moving forward on this. We have Member 2, we have Millbrook, and then there's some other, non-Aboriginal businesses that's working to develop as well. We have a good relationship with the Masstown Market because we know what they're doing, and it's more of a destination, and that's what we're talking about, is more of a destination, not just a pit stop where they're just in and out. That's not what we're looking for.
I do have one newsletter if anybody would like to take a look at it. It was our December newsletter. We're currently working on our June one. So it's up here if you'd like to see it.
Any further questions, comments? Sure.
Larry was asking earlier about how Madawaska employee, how many locals as opposed to non-locals. So with your small community, is there a plan to maybe recruit from other communities, or maybe, communities, talk to communities about possibly forming a database, like, having a good database of skilled workers? Some from here can work on your project, some from, your community can work on Buckingham's project in a few years. So maybe just thoughts of that, or, was there any talk amongst the chiefs or communities?
Well, I think the first thing we do is we're going to hire within our own community, and then we're going to put the call out. We do that now as we develop anyway. We put the call out in the newspapers and stuff and ask for people. But we put in our community first, then we send it out to all the communities. So anybody that we can get working, because we want skilled people and we want to treat, learn people how to do these skills and stuff. So, because once we get through phase 1, we go into phase 2 and phase 3, which is the development of the market and development of the cultural center and then maybe the development of a hotel down the road. So we got to have skilled people. So we will be putting out a call for other people.
We also did an asset research project when Glooscap Ventures first started. So we wanted to see the skill set within the community to see who we could draw on. Unfortunately, only about 25 community members answered the survey, despite how hard we tried. So we're trying to reach out and say to community members, if you have a skill, if you have a talent, if your career isn't something we could use, please let us know. So we do have know about a few community members who have a certain skill set, but it would have been nice for that asset, the HR asset research, to have more input from the community. But I think people were still a little bit leery about what we were doing. I think now we would probably get a bigger response.
We also push education, and we have, 28 people in the post-secondary. And what we want to do is bring our young people back to the community to offer them jobs, because we're sending them out, trying to get them well educated. And if there's an opening for them, we'll give them a call. Come back. We did that with Amanda. We did that with Jason. We did that with Michael. We did that with quite a few of the people that's working for us now. So that's what we want to do, is try to get our people back too, the younger ones, instead of going elsewhere. Like I was telling PJ, we have people that are well qualified, and if we don't pay them the wages or the salaries or the benefits, they're going to go in the non-native community, which in our community, we don't want that to happen. We don't want them to work for us, not for somebody else.
Thanks. Any further comments, questions? I just maybe will provide some closing. Sure.
I'm not sure about the Lands Management Act. That would be the new band manager. Well, new. It's been there a year. But like I said, we are looking at the landing and becoming additions to reserve. But currently, it served us well being fee simple, because we were able to leverage it to get the loan to finish the project.
I guess just in regards to the, fee simple land, well, we all know once we start and we get into the politics stuff, a lot of us only have a couple years to do something. Fortunately, luckily, I guess, in Glooscap First Nation, when we get in, our term is for 5 years, so it allows us, to build on some of these strategies and stuff. But also, I knew in regards to the, additions to reserve, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, but I said, really, we don't have enough time, to do that at this point. So that's why we ended up, proceeding the way we proceeded. But we do have something in the works in regards to looking at maybe turning it over into reserve in a much faster process than what it has in the past. but we're just looking into that right now. If we can, it'd be great. We like to do it, within a year or 2 years or whatever, but honest to goodness, what has happened in the past, it hasn't had good results as far as the time. And I'm saying I don't have 5, 10, 15, 20 years like some of the communities. If we don't do something soon, it's going to, we're going to lose the support from the community.